Yes, it is true, I have a disability. Now this is going to be somewhat of an interesting video and topic, but I do want to dive into it a little bit deeper right here in this video, so let's get into it. Now this is a question that I continue to see down in the comments section. I don't see it all that often, but I do see it every so often coming in where some of you are reaching out asking, hey, what's your story? What's your deal? Tell us more about you. So I do want to share this little bit of information about me simply because what I'm going to share with you in this video, some of you may not even know this about me. In fact, there are a lot of new people joining this community each and every day, and some of you may not even recognize what I'm going to share with you right here in this video. Not only that, some of you that have been around a while may also not know this about me, and what I'm about to share with you in this video also does make up a huge portion of my life and, of course, my story. So let's get into this and dive a little bit deeper. All right, so this is actually kind of interesting. I don't talk about this all that often at all, but if you've been around or if you've scrolled back and checked out any of my other videos, years ago, I did talk about this quite a bit. In fact, I have a couple hundred videos talking about exactly what I want to share with you in this video. So here it is. I'm actually blind. Now you might be thinking, wait, I don't get it. You're looking right at the camera. Here's the deal. Many people who identify as blind or who have severe vision loss, like me, do not have complete blackness in the world. My world is not completely black. However, it is very close to it. I can see very, very bright lights, and that's about it. I can see the difference between light and dark probably about 80% of the time, and that is about it. So the reason that I can look at the camera is because right behind the camera, I have a very bright light, and I literally just stare at the light. Most of the time I can see the light, but sometimes if you watch my videos, I'm looking off to the one side simply because I can't see the light, right? So that's what I do is I literally just stare at the light, and then I know if I'm looking at that light, I feel like, okay, I'm probably pretty lined up with the camera, at least good enough for now, right? So anyway, I do want to share more about this because some of you are intrigued by this and wondering more information about this. So I do want to dive into it a little bit more. Now again, like I said just a second ago, the vast majority of people who are blind actually do have some residual vision. That is actually my case as well, right here, right now. I do have a little bit, like literally, like I said, probably 80% of the time, I can see like the difference between light and dark, and then the other 20% of the time, I couldn't tell you if I'm staring into a spotlight or if it is complete blackness. It's weird. I don't know why that is. In fact, one quick side note here. So right up above here, I have two bright lights, really bright lights right up above. I would say probably, I don't even know, probably 8 out of the 10 times that I flip the light switch on, so there's a light switch over on the wall over here. When I hit the light switch, the lights turn on, right? I have a bunch of lights in this room. I have a big light over here, a big light over here, and then 2 bright lights up here, and then 1 right behind the camera. So when I hit the light switch, all my lights turn on, right? Oh, lights, camera, action. Except we're not recording at that point. The lights just turn on. I would say that 80% of the time that I hit that switch over there, the lights turn on, and I look at these 2 lights up here. Sometimes they don't turn on for whatever reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's something with the bulbs. I'm not really sure. But sometimes I'll look at those lights, and I will sit there and stare at the lights, and I couldn't tell you if they're on or off. So I'll go over to the light switch, and I'll sit there and flick it on and off. Flick on, off, on, off. And I'll be like, oh, okay, now I can finally tell the difference. At this setting, it looks really dark, and this setting looks really bright. But it's weird. Sometimes I literally cannot tell the difference. I can look right at them, and I couldn't tell you if they're on or off, and they are very bright lights. So, actually, sometime here, I'll flip the camera around and I'll show you my little setup right here. It's nothing fancy, I can tell you that much, but I'll let you know, I'll let you see exactly what I see from this. Well, honestly, I don't really see anything from this side. I literally see just a bright light that I'm looking at, but other than that, like what it looks like from my angle. So anyway, just a quick side note, just kind of let you know what actually is kind of like my situation. But anyway, let me talk about this a little bit more. Now, I have seen down in the comments section as well, some people on my previous videos has said, you're reading a teleprompter, right? Nope, I don't have a teleprompter. All of the information that I talk about in my videos is memorized. It's rehearsed multiple times. I sit here and rehearse a lot to make sure that I have all the information. I check it over and over and over again to make sure that I'm delivering the right information. And if at any point during my videos I mess something up, guess what? I have to scrap the whole thing and start over. Yeah, been there only about 4,000 times. Yeah, anyway, just a little side note there. So no, I do not read anything in my videos. It's all off of memorization. Anyway, let's talk a little bit more about this whole vision loss thing, because I know some of you are probably wondering, Okay, now I'm a little bit confused. Yeah, it's really confusing. I mean, seriously, even the people that I'm very close to, my wife Corey, many of you know her here on the channel, my parents, family members, people like this, like nobody truly understands vision loss. It's very confusing. In fact, it's kind of funny here because my brother-in-law, so like Corey's brothers, sometimes I talk to them and they're like, you know, Matt, I just don't get you. Sometimes you walk around the house like you can see totally fine, and then a second later you turn around and you walk into a wall. Like, I'm totally confused. What's going on? Now, by the way, I don't want to act like blind people walk into walls. They don't. It happens to me every so often, like very rarely. If I get turned around in a house or something and I kind of lose bearings of where I am, I might turn around and catch a shoulder on a wall, on a corner or something like that. It does not happen that often. I would say for the most part, when I go into a place that I know really well, I draw a blueprint in my mind of exactly what the layout is of that place is, and I know the place pretty well. I can walk around and you would never even guess that I can't see a thing as I walk around there. I just have a really good feeling of the flooring. I pay attention to what I'm hearing, echolocation, if you know what I'm talking about. I use that very closely. Anybody who has vision loss or is blind, we use our ears. We're like bats. I mean, if you're blind or have low vision, please don't take offense to that. But I mean, let's be real. I use my ears and my hearing. I rely on it a ton. A ton. In fact, funny little story. I was just downstairs a little while ago, and there was a balloon floating around, and I was standing somewhere, and all of a sudden I could hear that something was really close to my face. Like, I didn't know what it was. I could tell based on the absence of sound that something was really close to my face. Sure enough, I put my hand out, and there was a balloon like 6 inches away from my face. Had no clue it was there, didn't see it. I could hear it though, if that makes any sense, right? A balloon is silent. It's more like the absence of sound, if that makes sense. Anyway, very interesting. I can dive into that in a separate video if you want me to. Very interesting, but essentially all I'm saying is I could hear the balloon right in front of my face, if that makes sense. I know, totally creepy, totally weird, but I could hear it. Anyway, let's talk a little bit more about kind of my story as far as like my vision loss thing, and then I can tell you more about this because it's actually kind of an interesting story, and like I said, it does make up a huge portion of my life. So here's the thing. Way back when I was about 8, maybe 9, 10, something around that range, my parents and I, my family, my brother and I, there were different things about me that was really weird. In fact, I would drop something on the floor. I'd be at school. I'd drop my pencil. I'd drop my pen, drop my paper, something like that. I'd look down on the floor and it'd be like gone, like a mystery. Whoa, it disappeared. What happened to it? Well, it was there. I just couldn't see it. My eyes had like blank spots in it, right? It was almost like a piece of Swiss cheese. That's actually a pretty good analogy. Like my vision was maybe like the cheese, and then the cutouts were like the holes in my vision, right? So that's kind of how my vision was back then. Now, my vision was still pretty good up until about the age 27. I'm currently 37, so the last 10 years or so, I've seen virtually nothing. I can see a little bit. My vision's been declining very slowly, but for the most part, the last 10 years, I've seen pretty much nothing. But anyway, let me get to that point here in a second. So here's what would happen. As I was in school or as I was at home, I would drop something on the floor. I'd look down to pick it up and it wouldn't be there. Obviously it was there. I just couldn't see it. And then after I'd look at the floor and I'd like stare at the floor for, it could have been 5 seconds. It could have been a minute. It could have been 3 minutes. It could have been forever. I could have never found what I lost. But anyway, it was kind of interesting because as I was at home, my parents would be like, something's not right. You would drop something and my parents, they'd drop something, or my brother, and they'd just look at the floor and they'd bend over and pick it up immediately. Like there was no delay. Whereas when I would drop something, I'd look down at the floor and it'd be like, maybe I'd get lucky and see it right away. Or for the most part, I'd sit there and have to try to scan the floor over and over and try to find whatever it was I dropped. Well, we found that something was weird about it, right? Let me give you a couple other examples. Something else I really enjoyed doing. Going outside, throwing a frisbee around with my dad or my brother, maybe throwing a baseball around, maybe a tennis ball, I don't know, just throwing something around that would throw in the air. And there were times, maybe, 80% of the time I would see it. No problem at all. No big deal. Throw it to me. I'd catch it. Good deal. We're having fun, right? We're throwing balls. We're hitting baseballs. I don't know. All kinds of fun stuff, right? But then about 20% of the time, there would be nothing there. I'd see the arm throw, and then, whoa, the ball disappeared. It just disappeared. It vanished in thin air. Well, it wouldn't vanish, but rather I would duck and cover because I was scared it was going to whack me in the face. So I'd usually turn around and duck and cover, and then sure enough, it would either hit me in the back or it would, land somewhere near me. And again, at the time, nobody knew what was going on. So my dad and my brother would be like, "Are you scared of the ball? Like, what's going on here?" Well, the deal is, like, I didn't know the answer. I didn't know that I wasn't able to see it. And everybody else that I was playing with at the time, like, they didn't know what my situation was either. They just thought I was maybe scared of it or something. I don't really know. But the deal is, nobody knew what was going on. Well, it was this big mystery for quite a few years. And even things like as simple as birds flying over or an airplane flying over. I'd look up in the sky and maybe, again, 60, 70, 80% of the time, I'd be able to look up and eventually find it. And the other portion of the time, I could hear it. I could hear a bird flying over, tweeting on by, or an airplane flying over, but I could never see it. Weird, right? And then there were even some times where my dad and I would be outside, maybe throwing a ball around or something, an airplane would fly over and he'd be like, "Hey, there's an airplane. You see it?" And then sometimes I wouldn't see it. Well, and then I would lie and I'd say, "Oh yeah, I see it." And he'd say, "Oh really? What color is the tail?" And I'd be like, "Uh-oh, I'm busted," because I wouldn't know the answer, or I would guess, and he'd be like, I'd say, "It's red," and he'd say, "No, it's actually blue." You know what I mean? So those were a couple of situations where I think a lot of us were getting some red flags, like, okay, something isn't right here. Well, then we got into this little phase where many people were thinking, he's just not paying attention. Well, that could have been true too. I may not have been paying attention, but there was something going on deeper that many of us didn't understand. Anyway, let me fast forward a couple years. So now we come into my early teen time, so maybe like 13, 14-ish range. I started to see a few eye doctors where they went in, they do the usual, dilate my eyes. That's the worst, by the way. You can't see anything for like a full day if you've ever had it done. But anyway, I went to multiple different doctors. They pretty much dilated my eyes. They're like, "Yeah, all is fine. You just need contacts or glasses." Tried it. Nothing helped. I did not need help reading books. I did not need help seeing small print. I could actually see really, really small print. That was not the problem at all. It was more like my peripheral vision was not there, or I had like spots in my vision, like that Swiss cheese example I gave you just a minute ago. Well, eventually I went to one doctor. He dilated my eyes and he looked in and he said, "I see something back there. I don't know what it is. There's something on your retina. I don't know what it is. I'm going to refer you to a retina specialist." So we were thinking, oh, great. What could this possibly be? At the time, I was 15. Well, no, sorry, I take that back. I was 14 at the time. So I went to a retina specialist. They did the usual thing, dilate my eyes. They did like a bunch of different tests. I don't remember how many tests it was. It seemed like a lot at the time. I mean, I was 14. Anything seems like a lot at the time when you're 14, right? For me, it did anyway. But after a few hours of testing, we were sitting in the room, my parents and I, and we were sitting there. The doctor walks in and he goes, he sits down and he said, "Well, based on the study or based on the testing, based on everything that I've seen in Matt's eyes, it is consistent with something we call retinitis pigmentosa." And we were thinking, wait, I'm sorry, is that English? And it's English. My point is, we had no clue what he was even saying. Never even heard the word, never even knew it was a thing, had no clue what this meant. Basically, what it came down to is my retinas were like the rod and cone cells in my eyes were very, very slowly depleting. So as a result of that, I was also losing my vision very, very slowly. So this is actually a very slow process. In fact, the vast majority of people who have retinitis pigmentosa never actually lose their vision. However, some people have it way more progressive, where it actually progresses very quickly. Some people have it that it's late onset. Maybe they get it when they're 40, 45, 50, something like that. And they actually have pretty good usable vision for the vast majority of their life. In my case, unfortunately, I was diagnosed at the age of 14, but we saw symptoms way before that. No. Let me take that back. I was actually diagnosed on my 15th birthday. That's what it was. It was on my 15th birthday I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa. So, by the way, it's abbreviated as RP for short is the name for it. But anyway, so the whole deal about this is I was actually diagnosed at a very young age on my 15th birthday, but we started seeing symptoms years before the actual diagnosis. So unfortunately for me, I was one of the people that has a more progressive source or a more progressive form of retinitis pigmentosa. In other words, I got it at a very young age, and it's been progressing. It started out relatively slowly, but like I said, I had pretty good vision until I was about 27, and then it started depleting really fast. And at this point, Like I said, I can see bright lights and that is it. So anyway, that's kind of the progression of that. Now, to give you kind of a better baseline of where I went from about, 15 when I was diagnosed out until 27 when I kind of draw the line as far as, when that's kind of when things really dropped off really fast. So I was pretty independent. I did have my driver's license for like 2.5 years, something like that. I got my license when I was 18. I drove until I was like 21, maybe. I don't even think I was 21 at the time. Maybe it was like 20 and a half or something. It was something about that. Maybe 2.5, maybe 3 years or something. I had my license. It was not very long. And then stopped driving, and I have not driven a vehicle since I was 20, let's just call it 21. It was around there, 21 or so. So I have not driven a vehicle in 16 years. Yeah, right? Pretty interesting. So anyway, very interesting story, but I just want to let you know. So even after I stopped driving, I was still pretty independent. Even though I didn't drive, I would get a ride to anywhere I needed to go or whatever. And I could still go into stores and do shopping, stuff like this. I could still read like menus and soup cans and boxes and text messages, things like that. Totally fine, no big deal. However, as I continued on until about the age 27, it got more increasingly difficult to do many of those things. In order to read things like books and like boxes, things like this, I'm just giving examples. I needed magnifiers. So I needed magnifiers to blow it, make it really big. Well, not really big, but bigger, and then invert the text, making the text white and the background black. So yeah, that was something that worked really well for me, was inverting the colors and then making the font just a little bit bigger. Not huge, but a little bit bigger, so that it was still within that little range of vision that I still had, still within the kind of like the, avoiding the Swiss cheese hole cutouts, if that kind of makes sense. So anyway, but then at about the age 27, things fell off kind of really rapidly. My vision kind of declined really rapidly. And for the most part, I have not seen simple things like my family. I don't know what my family looks like anymore. Haven't seen their faces since I was about 27. Haven't seen them. When I stand in front of the mirror, I have not seen myself in about 10 years since I was 27. So I don't know what to think. It's going to be scary. Someday, if there's ever a day that I do get to see again to some capacity, it may be a scary day. You know what I mean? I could have gray hair. I have no clue. The last time I saw myself, I had black hair. Totally black hair. That's all I remember. So very interesting. Also, some of you know my wife, Corey, right here on the channel. She's been around in multiple of my videos. I have no clue what Corey looks like. We actually met in 2014, which was what? Was that 8 years ago? Yeah, 8. Well, it was about 7.5 years ago that we actually met. So I don't know what Corey looks like. Other than what people have told me and than what Corey has told me, I have no clue what she looks like. I have never seen her. So I don't know. Again, it could be kind of interesting someday, right? So yeah, just kind of a little bit more about kind of like how my life is, right? One more thing here as well. It's kind of a side funny story for you. So a few months ago, actually it was about 6 months ago, my family was getting together for a family event, I'm going to call it. Let's just leave it at that. Anyway, all of my family was there. Aunts, uncles, cousins, people that you typically don't see all that often, but everybody was there. You probably know where I'm going with this. Anyway, a lot of people were at this event. Anyway, a lot of us were there, and Corey and I were sitting in the back, and Corey and I were looking around, or Corey was looking around, and she's like, so I was like, tell me, what do you see? What do you see? And she's like, oh, I see, your family. I see all of your aunts and your uncles, your cousins. And I was like, what's going on with them? What do they look like? Like, what's going on? And she's like, do you know, this uncle has pure white hair? And I was like, wait, what? White hair? And she's like, yeah, he has pure white hair. And I was like, really? This is funny because it's interesting because the last images that I have of a lot of people that I know, my family, cousins, aunts, uncles, my parents, brother, things like this, people that I've seen my whole life, I have very vivid images of these people from 10 years ago. Very outdated images, right? So it was kind of interesting to try to picture the person that Corey was telling me about, that I previously have a very vivid image of, that person, how they looked 10 years ago, to try to swap out perfectly black hair with gray or pure white hair. It's just really interesting to me. I still have a hard time visualizing that because the images that I have of these people that I've spent my whole life knowing and seeing, it's really hard to replace that image, right? So anytime that I try to replace that, it's almost like it just doesn't stick. The image does not stick. So like I said, if there's ever a day that I do get to see again, it's going to be a very interesting time. And honestly, I'm going to be real with you right now. It's probably going to be kind of an emotional time simply because I don't know what people are going to look like, right? I have no idea what Corey looks like. I have no idea what our daughter looks like. I have no idea what my parents look like. Haven't seen them in forever. Have no idea what my brother looks like. I have no idea what my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, people like this, people that I've known my whole life, I have no clue what they look like anymore. I have old 10-year-old images of these people. It's like looking back at a picture of somebody that you knew or even yourself from 10 years ago. A lot of things change in 10 years. Unfortunately, a lot of things change in 10 years, right? So that is the same case. So even the day that I maybe get to look in the mirror, I hope I'm not too disappointed. You know what I mean? But I also recognize at the same time, time is sometimes our worst enemy, right? When it comes to aging and things like that. But anyway, it's just the fact of the matter. There's nothing we can do about it. But I'm just saying, it's going to be a very interesting time if there is ever that day. Now, let me tell you again, too, because some of you might be wondering, is there a cure, or are there glasses, are there contacts, is there something I can do? No, there's no cure, there's no glasses, there's no contacts, there's literally nothing that can be done for what I have. At this time, there's a lot of clinical trials that are going on. There's a lot of research when it comes to gene therapy. There's a lot of talk about stem cells, stuff like this. But for the most part, there is nothing. There is absolutely nothing that can be done. Glasses do absolutely nothing. Contacts do absolutely nothing. I mean, literally, when I say absolutely nothing, I mean you could hold up a pair of the most powerful glasses in the world, and you could hold up absolutely nothing, and I literally would not be able to tell the difference. It would be nothing for me. Zero. Nothing. So anyway, that's kind of where it is. As far as the prognosis, according to what they say, is it's just going to continue declining until eventually I see absolutely nothing. So even though I do have a little bit of light perception now, by the way, that's what it's called, is light perception, just me being able to see bright lights and things like this. But other than that, eventually, if there is no cure or anything like that at some point in the future, eventually my vision will just continue to decline until eventually it is just total black world. So that's kind of the prognosis. Unfortunately, because I was diagnosed at such a young age and I do have more of a rapid depletion, because of that, I'm 37. By the time I'm, say, 70 or 80, something like this, or even realistically, probably 50 in the next 13 years or so, there's probably a high likelihood, considering the last 10 years, I went from being able to see books and read books and things like this with magnification to now to the point where literally you could have somebody stand right in front of me. I mean, I'd still hear the person, or you could put literally anything in front of me. You could put a car in front of me. You could put a semi in front of me and I wouldn't see it. So that's my point, is in 10 years time, I went from being able to read a book to not even being able to see a semi. So it's a true thing, right? So anyway, very interesting stuff. Anyway, hope this shares a little bit more about me. Obviously, it shares more about me. Like I said, some of you may not even have recognized this about me, but either way, some of you have also reached out down in the comments section saying, hey, why do you talk about Social Security? Like, what's your deal? Why do you talk about this? What interests you about this? And why are you so obsessed with helping out people who are low income or seniors or people with disabilities, the elderly, low income people like this? Why? Because I'm right here in this group. I mean, let's be real right now. Why I know about Social Security? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm very familiar with SSDI because I'm disabled, right? The last time I worked a job was in 2008. Yeah, that's the last time I actually had a job, was in 2008. That is the last time that I reported to a job. So what is that, 14 years ago? Yeah, that's the last time. So I know what it's like to live on SSDI. I know what it's like to receive Social Security. I don't think I've ever shared this in any of my videos before, but I know what it's like. I'm right here. I'm doing it. You know what I mean? So I totally get it. I've been down this path for many years now. I wish there was a different path I could go down, but this is my life right now, and this is just how I'm doing it. But either way, I'm right here. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I know what it's like to be in a position where you don't know where to go to find information. I know what it's like to feel like you don't know who to trust or where you can get reliable, transparent, accurate information. And that is my dedication. That is the dedication that I made years and years ago to everybody right here on the channel. Is I said, I will be here for you every single day to bring you the details, to bring you the honest, accurate, reliable, transparent information every single day. Because I know what it's like to be that person where I don't know where to turn. I don't know who I can trust. I don't know where I can get reliable information on a daily basis. Well, I've been there, and unfortunately, there have been a few times where I thought I could trust a person, and then ultimately it turned out to be, oh, okay, I guess I shouldn't have trusted that person in the first place. I've been down that road. It's not a fun thing to be. So anyway, I made this dedication a very long time ago, years ago, that I would be the person that I hope I can establish a community right here that you can feel safe in, that you feel like you're getting honest, accurate, reliable, and transparent information from me every single day as I deliver it to you right here in these videos. That is my dedication. As I've said before, if there's ever a time that I make a mistake with anything that I had mentioned in my videos, I'll be the first to come back and say, hey, I messed up. I gave you wrong information. I apologize. I had messed something up. I said a wrong number. I said a wrong statistic. Here's the right information. And you've seen that. If you watch my videos, I've said that in a number of videos. I've come back and say, hey, yesterday in my video, I messed up. I said something wrong. I apologize. Here's the right answer. So I've done that before. And that is my commitment and my dedication to you and this community. Ultimately, as I've said before, maintaining your trust is ultimately the most important thing to me right here in this community. Without trust, we have absolutely nothing. So that to me is the most important. It is the most superior point to everything out there, is maintaining your trust and ultimately following it up by maintaining your trust with the honest, accurate, reliable, and transparent information. Make sense? So anyway, I think this video is probably getting a little bit long, so let's leave it here for now, but I'm very interested to read your comments down below. Again, you might be wondering, how do you read? You just told us you can't read. Well, I use something on my iPhone called VoiceOver. If you're familiar with it, it basically just everything is read to me. So that's what it is. Again, I can talk about it in a separate video, but if you're interested in hearing more about this low vision, blindness, vision loss, or retinitis pigmentosa, feel free to scroll back and check out some of the videos. I have hundreds of videos right here on the channel talking about this from years ago. What I would actually suggest is going to the channel and actually clicking on the playlists. So there's multiple different playlists here on the channel. So if you go to the playlist, you can find the one that maybe says like retinitis pigmentosa, maybe something like that. I'm honestly not sure what the name is. But if you scroll through the playlists, you'll see all the different playlists, and you can just choose the one that is dedicated to low vision, blindness, or retinitis pigmentosa, something like that, and you can get a good idea of more information. By the way, the videos from back then are really bad quality, but you can hear it from me back, 2, 3, 4 years ago, something like that. So anyway, oh, wow, this got to be a really long video. I apologize. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If anybody's still watching, I hope you enjoyed this. And I hope this shares a little bit more about me and my story and why I do what I do and why I am so dedicated to this channel, why I'm so dedicated to this community, and why I want to be here for you in any way that I can. So anyway, I'm interested to hear your comments down below, your feedback, anything like that. Please feel free to leave it down below. Please don't hold back. If you have something to say, let me have it. Seriously, I want to read it. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this video. Anyway, hope this one helps you out. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe down below, share this video with your friends, family, social media, and go back and check out any of the other 2,200 videos right here on the channel. Enjoy, and I'll continue to be here for you each and every day. Enjoy, and I'll catch you again later.